Welcome to Let's Web Dev. Turupan here, and in this video we're going to review what Model View Controller is, and we're going to see it in motion by using a web framework. So let's get started by defining what Model View Controller or MVC is. So the views are what the users can see and interact with, and the controllers are actions triggered by users that can modify or retrieve data from the models, and the models are the low-level data layer. So if you're new to web development, this can seem like a lot, so we're going to break it down by creating a project on Ruby on Rails and seeing a little bit how everything you can put everything together. So, and just so you know, we're going to use Rails, but these concepts also apply on most web frameworks, modern web frameworks such as Django, Laravel, or Min.io. And yeah, but the process should be a little bit different, but the core concepts of Model View controllers are the same. So we're going to start by creating a new project. We're going to name it My App, and what this is going to do is create a bunch of directories and files, and we're going to focus on these three folders. As you can see, Rails create a core structure for you to handle model view and controller. And now what we are going to do is create a new scaffold, and the scaffold is you are going to define a model going to be named a post. Let's say we're making a blog app that each post has a title and a body. So and once we run this command, Rails is going to generate the models, the views, and the controllers for us. And you can do all this manually, and if you use this scaffold, you can edit whatever you want later. This is just a kickstart to get there quickly. And we're going to add an extra command. This is the migration. This is going to generate all the changes on the database. So we're ready to check it out. We're going to open a browser, and we are going to go to, well, in here we can see that our project was launched, and if we want to see our post model that we created, you can go to /post. As you can see the views. These are the views, and you can just create new post. And yeah, and it just gets stored in the database. And in order to do this in Rails, we had to go through Model View Controller, but everything was automated on the scaffold. And if we make a review from these concepts, as you can see, the views is what we can see. We can see an interact with a text field, and we can click a button, and once we click this button, an action is triggered, and this action is the controller. And what the controller do in that case is store on the database, which is the model. And you can also retrieve data, edit or destroy or delete, and every action is a controller that you can trigger it from the view. And what the controllers usually do is to interact, like retrieve or modify data on the models, on the database. So we are going to take a quick look to the code. I'm going to use Visual Studio Code, but you can use whatever editor. And let's start from the views. And this file represents this view. And as you can see, we are using HTML, and by far the most common way to use to make views is HTML. And as you can see, we just created a paragraph from the views. And the cool thing about using a MVC framework is that from the views you can communicate with the controllers, you can trigger actions or retrieve data from controllers. And we are not going to focus right now on that, but we're going to do future videos where we focus on this kind of interaction. And yeah, for now, just to keep it simple, we're going to check out what the controllers look like. And in here, as you can see, there are like a lot of functions. And for instance, this function, the index function, is this is connected with this view, and what it does is retrieves all the posts so you can then show them on your view. And this is, for instance, how the controllers interact with the model. And there are a lot of functions, for instance, to create a new post or update an existing post or deleting. So this is generally how controllers look like. Just functions generally stored in a class, and you can create your new functions and bind them to a view. And inside your functions, your controllers, you can modify data through models. So finally, let's take a look at the models. You can see it's a simple file that was generated. It's just a class, but if you're familiarized with object-oriented programming, you can see the post inherits from application record, and application records has all these bindings to the database and encapsulates these functions so you can easily create, delete, update your records on the database. And yeah, it's not much to be done in here. And usually you will define your model once and then just keep working on the controllers and on the views, just making all the actions and validating stuff on the controllers and and displaying it to the user on the views. So that's generally the workflow. And yeah, that's it for this video. And we're going to, as I said before, we're going to continue making more. I think this is very important if you want to get into web development, to know a little bit of everything. So maybe you want to focus on front end, which are the views, or in back end, which are the model and the controllers. I think it's okay to focus on one area, but I think it's also very important to know at least the basics of everything related to webdev, so you can communicate with your teammates better, and also so you can take better decisions on what you're doing. And yeah, that's it for this video, and subscribe if you want to stay updated for future videos like this. And thanks for